Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Summer is here, so there's no better time to check out the selection of new and used boats at Madisonville Marine. If you want some fun on the lakes this year but can't afford a new boat right now, Mad Marine offers a wide range of used boats with, get this, with a warranty. You're not going to find that at a lot of boat dealers. They're not going to offer warranties with their used boats. Madisonville Marine, you couldn't deal with better people. There's a reason they've been down there for about 4 decades. Madisonville Marine. Okay, back with Chuck, Mike, Bob, and Jimmy. Going to take this one in a little different direction. It's not just one topic, now there are 3. Let's go back to a span of time between November 2008 and January of 2010. If UT could reverse one of the following things, which one should it be? A, firing Phillip Fulmer. B, hiring Lane Kiffin. C, if they could somehow prevent losing Lane Kiffin to Southern Cal. Put a hit on Pete Carroll or something, or threaten, you have to stay. So, firing Phillip Fulmer, hiring Lane Kiffin, losing Lane Kiffin, which would you reverse?
Losing Lane Kiffin. Because I think as much as Phil Fulmer looks so good in the hindsight now compared to what Lane Kiffin did in 1 year, people forget how negative it had gotten around Coach Fulmer, how negative it had gotten around the football program. I think you needed to make a change, and if that change was going to be Lane Kiffin, then keep him here, see what he does over a longer span of time.
I think that was the big mistake, was hiring Lane Kiffin. To me, if there's a Kevin Sumlin out there that you could have gotten and he had decided to stay, if you could go back and change something, the big mistake was hiring Lane Kiffin, because he was going to win multiple championships here. You remember that? He wasn't just going to win one. And he wasn't even here, after the first season, he couldn't wait to get out of here. So that's what you need to change. You need to erase that from the history books.
Okay, the hire of Lane Kiffin.
The hire of Lane Kiffin.
I go with the hiring of Lane Kiffin also. He was a good football coach, I thought, but he just wasn't a fit, and something was going to happen. He
And it did.
He was not going to be here now.
I don't think he would have succeeded here. I don't think he would have ever succeeded here. He'd have gotten in trouble. Look at the first class he had. Look what a bomb class that was. I mean, that was awful. So that top 10 class ended up being nothing. I wouldn't have fired Fulmer. I'd go back and reverse that.
Really?
Yes.
You think it would have been fixed?
If my choice is to hire Kiffin, then I'm not firing Fulmer.
Well,
Now, if you told me that
you could do whatever you want. Just
if
is
you
the
tell
issue
me I'm hiring Sumlin or a good coach,
or Brian Kelly?
then I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if we're
that's
playing,
what we're saying.
But if we're playing the
Okay.
what-if game, I'm going to take Vince Lombardi DNA out of a petri dish, and I'll do that.
But no, I think you could say that there's firing Fulmer.
that?
There's I think your issue sounds more like hiring Lane Kiffin would be the problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's hiring. So I wouldn't have hired Kiffin. I certainly wouldn't have kept him. I disagree completely with that. So if my option then is I'm going to keep Phillip Fulmer.
Okay.
Out of those options,
Would he be the coach today?
Lane
maybe. Now see, here's the thing. He was going to bring in Kippy Brown as his offensive coordinator. All right. And I think Kippy Brown's a good coach. I think we all agree with that. So I think he could have rebuilt this thing again. Now, did he have 2 losing seasons in 4 years? Yes, he did. He had 2 SEC championship games in 5 years. I think that he could have rebuilt it again if he had Kippy Brown. So I would have kept Fulmer out of that.
But say the reason I would have gone ahead and made the change though was because of all the negativity. I don't think people at that time, a lot of people,
I think he lost the fan base.
He lost the fan base.
Well,
and
the Alabama game where it was.
That's
as much as I like Coach Fulmer, I just think that you had to make some sort of a change at that time, just simply because people were just tired of it. I think it was very similar to the 3rd year of Derek Dooley. This just isn't working anymore. We've got to do something.
But you also saw the talent drop off. I mean, this is not to say. It's funny. It's one of these things where he was either the greatest coach or the worst coach, and that's not true. He was one of the greatest coaches in the 90s. In the 2000s, it wasn't as good, and there was a drop off in talent that we've shown you. You can look at the NFL draft. So I think a change did. I mean, 2 losing seasons in 4 years. Most major programs, guys, not going to survive that. But if it's me, the biggest issue here that really tore things down, I'm with Bob. I think it's losing Lane Kiffin. Now, all of his issues, I thought he was a first-class jerk, but we thought that this was going to be a guy who's cheating left and right. They didn't get hit for anything, really. It was all secondary stuff. It was Bruce that got hit. It wasn't Lane, so that was a little bit of a surprise. I look at it and say, what's been the biggest detriment to this program? it was back-to-back changes in 2 years. It was not just all the turnover and attrition under the former change. Then you had it right then after that, and you're having to go out and hire somebody in January. You push the panic button. Oh, we've got to save the class. Save the recruiting class. Yeah, that worked out well. So to me, it's keeping Lane Kiffin, as crazy as that sounds, because he was a punk, and I don't know that would have ever changed, and he wasn't a great fit here. But if you've given him 3 years of 7-6, 8-4, maybe a 9-3, a heck of a lot better than where you've been the last few years, and then you turn it over to somebody else.
I think he proved at Southern Cal he wasn't a good head coach.
See,
And you're gonna point to the violations.
yeah, I mean, he's got 30 players out.
He also was recruiting classes that were ranked in the top 10. Even without that, his starting talent was good enough, even without depth, to have won more games.
But
than
his
he
talent
did.
did get beat up pretty bad at Southern Cal.
You
Go
lose
look at all
10,
their injuries.
then another
he
10.
didn't have any depth, but he was a snake. I've heard that.
So I wouldn't have kept him.
You wanted to, it's not like you're fans. You were big on the sewage treatment plant.
Yeah,
named
I thought they were going to be a sewage treatment
I
plant
just think
named after.
when you look at it, if you fire Fulmer, okay, and you hire somebody else, you can fix that.
And I'm not even saying that if you do keep Kiffin, that he's still your coach today.
Right.
But I just think that losing him in a year was.
Led to more attrition with your roster.
Yeah.
I don't think you go through, well, you don't get Dooley, you don't panic on that. I just think that was the bigger issue. And the thing is, if he could have stayed that, 2 or 3 years, you'd have had a better idea of, did you pull the trigger on Fulmer too soon? As it turns out, it's like, well, we'll never know because this guy blew it all to heck.
If you were going to panic, you should have hired Kevin Summer.
Of course, he would have been.
That was the panic hire.
Yeah,
You
well,
should
the
have
Dooley
made.
thing. Yeah, exactly. All right. When we come back,
Blew it all to heck.
if UT could go back in time and block one coach from coming to the SEC, who would they send the Terminator after? Come on back on the Sports Source.